Hey guys, it's Kris here from BoardGameBreakdown.com, and today I'm bringing you a video for the setup and the how to play for Lost Ruins of Arnak, as well as the expansion called Expedition Leaders. Now if you go to the review on the website and take a look at it, you'll see that I'm basically treating these two items as one game. The reason for that is after playing them, I honestly would never go back to only playing the base game. I will always play it with the expansion. Since playing, I've taught it to at least 3 people with not even explaining that it was an expansion, just putting it all out there and teaching them. And it went great. They could not even tell there was an expansion. So for that reason, I'm just going to be talking about this as one product. So what I've got in store today is first I will go over how to set the game up. We'll look at the board, go through that, discuss a little bit of the rules as I set it up. And then I'm going to go over each of the player boards that you'll find in the Expedition Leaders expansion. The reason for that is I really like variable player powers. From what I read, it's a very popular thing amongst board gamers. Seems to be something that people really like. So I do take a little bit of time to go over each board and discuss the different powers that each player or each character has. And then last, I will do a how to play, and you'll actually watch me play 1 or 2 rounds, kind of go through, show the actions, give you some options on what it's like to play. And that way, you can really make an informed decision on whether or not this game is for you. There are chapters that I've set up on the YouTube video, so you can skip forward to whichever section interests you if you came here just to see the how to play it part, or you're just interested in the expansion, say you already have this and you just want to check out the boards that come with that, then feel free to click through and pick those chapters out. And please remember to subscribe, as I will have more videos coming out, and check out the website. Again, it is boardgamebreakdown.com, where we'll be hosting reviews, putting links to these videos, having some other things as we get started. All right, so with that, the intro is done. Let's get to the setup. Alright, so welcome to the setup portion of Lost Ruins of Arnak with the Expedition Leaders expansion. As you've probably noticed in some of the shots I had at the beginning, this board is very large. So we are going to look at just one portion at a time. We're going to start with the lower portion here. So on the left side, you'll notice an area that you can put all of your resources at. So we've got a couple different resources. We've got these cardboard gold tokens. We have the cardboard compass. And then these 3, they did not make out of cardboard, and I really like how they feel and look. And you've got these tablets. You have some arrowheads here. And then you have these rubies that are definitely the most sought after of the resources, because you have to usually discard a card to get those. We'll go into that a little bit later. Down here you have 3 stacks of tiles. So you've got your level 1 sites. You flip them over, they've got some really beautiful artwork on them. They're going to go up on the middle part of the board, so you'll shuffle those up, put them in this stack. You have your level 2. Again, a little bigger, beautiful artwork. All the artwork's unique on every tile. I really like that about this game. Those are going to cost a little more and go further up on the board. And in the middle here, you have your guardian tiles. You'll shuffle up. Again, with everything in this game, really unique, awesome artwork on every tile. These things are going to come out and guard the sites. And if you don't defeat them, you'll get some fear cards. We'll go into that later when we get into how to play. Right above that, you have this section of tiles here. These are the assistants. So you'll shuffle them up. You'll put 5 in each stack. You can see the top ones, but the ones underneath will be hidden. These are going to give you some special abilities as you move up this research track over here. And you can exhaust them, cause their ability or action to trigger. You'll see that they have a silver side here. Eventually, if you get high enough, you'll flip it over to this gold side, which allows you to do a little bit more powerful stuff. You can have up to 2 assistants on your board, so that's right there. I mentioned the research track. Look at that in a little bit, but you've got your tokens here, which is a magnifying glass, and you have your journal. So these 2 tokens are going to be working their way up this track if you choose to, and the magnifying glass goes first. It always stays either equal or ahead of the journal. Journal can never pass the magnifying glass, but as your magnifying glass goes up, it triggers these bonuses on this top level here. The journal triggers the bottom. You have to pay these resources to move up the track. This is really a significant portion of your points, typically, at least in my experience, comes from working your way up this temple. You'll see that the temple is movable because this is double-sided, and even the original board, because this came with the expansion, the original board is double-sided as well, has a temple underneath it, and on the back side has an additional temple. So a lot of variation there. The temples kind of laid out the same way, but they have different rewards, they have different bonus tiles here, they have different costs. Then you'll also see these first 5 dig sites. So you'll notice that I have these little wave tokens on here. So I've set this up as if we are playing a 2-player game. And a 2-player game, you will cover up the second space on all of the sites. That is because only one person can use these sites at a time. If you're playing more than 2 players, then there's a certain amount of these that you'll use, and you can randomize them. You see on the back, you can like take 3 out of the bag, and whatever 3 you pull, you'll cover up those. So a few of them will be open for 2 players or multiplayers. The others will be closed. The last thing that you can kind of see on this section is here. You've got these bonus tiles. So on the temple track, and when I move the camera up, you'll see some more. But there'll be spaces here for these tiles to go, and as people reach these levels, they can pull the tiles and they can pick which one they would like to use. So it's kind of a little bit of a race. First person to get there is able to pick possibly a better resource than the other person that comes up behind them. All right, so that takes care of this bottom section of the game board. We're now going to move up to the top portion. All right, so we've moved up to the middle portion of the board. We're slightly higher up than the beach sites that we could visit. Here you're going to see more of the temple all the way up to the top. So like I said, here's these bonus tiles that I mentioned in the first part that you can lay out. Sometimes the temple has a special area here. The backside of this, it has a guardian that you will shuffle and put out. This happens to be an artifact. When you get to this spot, you can flip it over, trigger the artifact. So you do have to set that up. You shuffle according to the instructions and play one there. There's also bonus tiles here, and the person to get to this level of the temple first gets 23 points and gets to pick a tile here. When you put these bonus tiles out, you're going to place them there, and you're going to put as many as there are players. So this spot says 2, 3, and 4. So if you're playing with 2 players, you put 2. That way each person gets to pick one when they get there. You also have these temple tiles up here. You'll see a row of 2 points, 6 points, and the top one at 11 points. Each of these there's 2 of. And once you get to this level, or this level, you can start buying these. They cost this amount. So like this one here costs a gold and 2 documents. This one costs a ruby If you want to grab this one, you have to pay for both of those. And if you want to get the 11, you have to pay all 3 of them. And those are victory points at the end of the game. The other part of the setup you have to do in this middle section is to set up all of these. So when you put the board out, these, which are called runes, are not out there. And what you got to do is for every level 1 area, you shuffle and you put out 1 rune face up. For the level 2, you're going to put 1 rune face down and 1 rune face up. And there's little reminders here for you so you know what to do. These are going to be your rewards when you go visit a site for the first time, along with putting out the tile 1 or tile 2 site. In the Guardian, you're going to take these. You're going to trigger the resource or action it has on it. And then you're also going to be able to save it and possibly use it for another action later on your personal board. When we go over the individual player boards, I'll talk a little more about that. So that handles the middle section. Our last thing for the main board is we're going to move up to talk about the market. All right, so we're at the very top of the board now. This is primarily where the market is going to sit and the cards that you're eventually going to be able to buy to make up the rest of your hand. So there's 3 decks that you'll separate. One, you see these fear cards here. So they're all the same. You don't have to shuffle them. They're going to sit here. They're going to be negative points if they're in your hand or your deck at the end of the game. Again, we'll talk about how you can get rid of those a little bit more in the how to play section. You're going to put out this fancy red staff here pointing to round 1. That's going to keep track of the 5 rounds that you're playing. If you don't have the expansion and you only have the base game, you'll have a blue staff. The red staff technically does something different, but you could use the blue staff with the same mechanism. I really like the red staff, what it does. I'll show that to you in a second. And then you have these 2 decks, which are different, so you do need to separate them. So first you have your artifacts. So artifacts are going to be kind of bluish around. You're going to have this vase symbol, and they're going to cost compasses. All right, so this is going to go here to the left of the staff, and then you also have items, which kind of have this, I guess that's a shovel of some sort. It's kind of brown. They cost gold money, not compasses. And you're going to fill in this part of the market. So this will be how you start the game, where you will have 1 artifact and 5 items available to you to purchase. Now what's going to happen is after a round is over, you're going to burn 2 on each side, move the staff this way, and then fill it in. So in effect, as you go through the game, you'll start having more artifacts, you'll start having less items. There are differences between the artifacts and the items. Get into that in the next section of the how to play. And then you lastly have 2 discard piles here. So when you banish a card, burn a card, whatever you want to think of it as, to get them out of your hand, you're going to put the items here, put the artifacts there. If you burn a fear card, banish a fear card, it can just go back into this pile, since all the fear cards are the same. So that wraps up the main board, all 3 sections of it. Next, we'll look at each individual player board for the different characters in the Expedition Leaders expansion. Alright, so the first character we're going to talk about is the Captain. So this is the individual player board that you would get if you selected this character. These are going to go in order from what is typically thought as the easiest or less complicated to play to the most complicated. So his variable power, you can see down here in the left hand corner as a reminder on each board, is he basically gets 1 extra worker, or an archaeologist as they are called in this game. So you'll see typically everyone starts with 2. Another character does only start with 1. We'll talk about her in a minute. But he gets this guy. So he gets 3, which is very helpful. And like I said, as a new player, they might want to start with this character because most people who play this game might have experienced another worker placement game, and having more workers is going to give them just more chances to do actions. So you'll see a couple other things on the board. Since this is the first board we're talking about, I will point out a few things that I won't go over in the other boards. Here's where you will keep your deck right there. All the boards have that. This is where you'll keep your different assistants that I showed you during the setup. So for example, this, if he had that one, he would sit him there. Another one could go there. Again, you can tap them to do certain things. So that's where those assistants are going to live if you get them. Then you'll notice these 4 slots. They happen to fit the runes that you're going to get for discovering sites. Fit in right here. The way this works is if you get runes and you want to take one of these special actions, you can slot a rune into one of these in order to trigger this. You lose the amount of points at the end of the game that are on here, but it does allow you to do something like this. So if you're in a bind and really need something, then that's something you can do. All of these actions that are not blue are the same for every character. Each character does have their own unique blue power down here. So for the captain, he gets a compass and a plane, which allows him to move to a different site or move to the sites that call for trucks or boats. You can trigger this with any of these, but if you use these 2, cannot trigger the blue. So the 3 and 4 have to be able to trigger that. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to end up sacrificing 3 or 4 points. Lastly, he has this little area here. He can place a worker there instead of putting them out on the table. And what this emblem means is any of the assistants that are on the board, not the ones he has, but are on the board, he can use the silver side power one time. It's like this archaeologist triggers that. So if there are people on the assistants on the board that you need their action, you can place a worker there and trigger that. All right, so let's quickly go over his starting hand. All the characters start with 4 unique cards. Some of them are slightly the same. Some of them are very different and geared towards their variable power. So starting up here, he has a hidden fear card. So everyone will start with 2 fear cards that are -1 point. He starts with an additional one that's -2. You will see that there is some text here that if you do banish this or exile it, then you get to gain a normal fear card and a compass. So you want to try to get that out of your hand as quick as possible. It does have a boot on it, which can help you get to certain action spots. Go over that when we do the how to play. This is called transmission. So what this is saying is for every worker he has placed, you cannot count the one on his personal board, then you can get these items. So if you had 1 worker placed when you play this card, you get a gold. If you have 2 workers placed, you get a compass. If you have 3 workers placed, you get a tablet. So you really want to get your workers out on the board with him, and then you can play this card to get some extra resources. Piloting allows you to either get a compass or you can turn in 1 gold for 2 planes. The planes are going to really let you get to any site, and having 2 of them is very helpful. Same with having the ability to defeat guardians that require a plane. The captain can use that. And then lastly, he can play this and get a gold. So this sums up the captain. Next, we will move on to the Falconer. All right, so here we have the Falconer board. Again, similar layout as the captain, so I'm not going to discuss these sections here. If you missed that, go back to the captain chapter, take a look at that. So let's just talk about the things that are unique to the Falconer. So main thing, right off the bat, she gets this Falcon token. So you'll see that there's different slots here for the token. So at the beginning of every round, this is going to move. So even the first round, she gets to move it to there. What will happen is if you want to trigger these actions that are on here, then you'll trigger them and send your falcon back to the beginning. There are also some other cards we'll go over in a second that allow her to move the falcon too. So in this way, if you take more rounds to move the falcon up, you might make it that high, which gives you a chance to trigger a level 1 site and then send the falcon back. So it's a really cool way to have some additional powers, additional actions that the falconer can take, and kind of decide. There's good decision points there to decide when to trigger that, knowing that the falcon's going to go back to the beginning. And then down here is just a quick reminder that at the beginning of every round that the falcon needs to move. And this also means that if you flip a guardian over and basically forfeit his power that you get when you defeat it, you can also move the falcon. So there are some additional ways to get the falcon to move up. All right, so the falconer's cards here, we have getting gold. It's pretty simple. This one, get a compass, and if you discover a new site this turn, you can draw 2 guardians and then choose which one. So you'll notice as we go through this that the falconer's power really enables her to overcome guardians. So this is great because you can pull 2 guardians and choose which one you want to put out. There might be one that you've chosen that you already have all the resources to overcome it. Boom, put it out, next turn overcome. This falconry card lets you either get a compass or advance your falcon token. And then animal bond is similar to the captain one, where depending on how many people you have out, this one tells you depending how many guardians you've overcome, you get these things. So if you haven't overcome any guardian, you at least get a gold. If you've overcome 1 or 2 guardians, you can exile a card. If you have 3 or more guardians overcome, you can get a gold and you can move your falcon token. So that's it for the falcon. Next, we'll move on to the professor. Next up, we have the professor. So you'll see that he has a little more going on with his setup than the previous few that we've looked at. And his specialty is going to be artifacts. So getting artifacts, playing artifacts, that's going to be his main focus. So let's first start here like we have in the past 2. You're going to start with this suitcase. So there's a reminder there. And then you also see a row of 3 artifact cards over here. So these artifacts are drawn at random, and this is kind of his bank that he can buy from. He can still buy from the normal market, but only he can buy from these. Still cost the same, they still play the same as in any other artifact, but it just allows him to have some just for him. And then you'll see that some of his cards let him trade out. So if there's one in the market he really wants, he wants to make sure that no one else buys it, he can swap this out. You also see here, there's some reminders that in the second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, he's going to get a compass and a document. And then a compass and another document, or tablet, whichever you want to call it. But you'll see it's on the suitcase. So when these resources go to his suitcase, he can only use them to buy artifacts. So if he has 3 compasses here, he can spend them on a 3 compass artifact. He cannot spend them to go visit a site that costs 3 compasses. If he has documents there, he can use them to trigger the artifacts that he has. He can't use them to defeat or overcome a guardian. So keep that in mind, that everything on the suitcase has to be artifact related. There's one other reminder on the board here, and what it is stating is that one time during the game, if you buy or wipe out all 3 of these cards, then you can put 3 new ones on here, refill it, and that also gives you a compass in your suitcase. But you can only do that once a game. All right, so let's look at his cards. He has funding Again, just gives them a coin. I think most characters have a card like that. Arnakology. What this allows him to do is take a compass, and then you can swap one of your artifacts in your archive with one from the market. So if, say, there's one in the market he really wants, stone jar he doesn't really care about, he can swap this out, get the new one, swap it in. And then that allows him to buy it whenever he wants to, and he doesn't have to worry about it getting burned in between rounds. He has this preservation card that allows him to either get a compass or upgrade. So that's one thing we have not talked about yet, but an upgrade allows you to take a tablet, turn it into an arrowhead, or take an arrowhead and turn it into a ruby. So he has a lot of flexibility there with his resources. And then last, linguistics. What this means is for all of his artifacts that he's played, depending on how many he has, is going to depend on the level here. So if he has no artifacts played, he gets a single gold coin. If he has at least one artifact played, then he can get a compass in his backpack. If he has 2 or more artifacts played, he can get a compass and a document in the backpack. So the more artifacts he plays, the more resources he gets to buy more artifacts. He really wants to stack the artifacts up to trigger more actions and get extra points at the end of the game. That does it for the Professor. Now we will move on to the Baroness. Alright, so here we are with the Baroness board, and much like the Professor, she is going to concentrate on gaining cards, but instead of artifacts, she's going to work on gaining items. So let's start down here in the left corner. As always, this is a reminder to make sure to take this card. We will talk about that special delivery card in a second, as that is a unique card for her. At the beginning of the game, you draw 4 cards, or at the beginning of each round, I'm sorry, you're going to draw 4 cards plus the special delivery card. Normally you would draw 5 cards. She's a little different. Much like the Professor too, she's going to gain resources at the beginning of each round, 2nd round through 5th. She's going to get a gold coin in each. So you can see she's going to start accumulating money very quickly to buy items. So let's look at her cards. She's got connections. So that gives you a gold coin, and it says you may exile the far left item from the card row and refill it. So maybe the row has some cards that you're not all that fond of. You can play that, banish the leftmost card, they move down, a new card comes out. Research notes, she can take 1 compass, or because she's going to have so much money, she can spend $2, 2 gold coins, for a ruby. Resourcefulness, this means for all the items she has played, triggers one of these things. So if you have no items played right then, you're going to get a gold coin. If you have at least 1 or 2 items played, you'll get a compass. If you have 3 or more items played, you get to untap or unexhaust one of your assistants that you might have already used. And then last, we have the special delivery. So what this says is play this effect when you buy an item to put it directly into your hand. So the rule of the items is when you buy an item, it typically goes underneath your deck. When you are the Baroness and you buy an item, you can play this and it can go directly into your hand, so you can play it that same round. The other thing with this, you'll notice it has a different back to it, is that this will never get shuffled and put back into your deck. At the end of every round, you're going to set it aside, shuffle everything, put it up underneath the deck, draw 4 cards, and this will always be the 5th card. So she always has this in her hand at the beginning of every round to give her the ability to use these items she's buying. You'll also notice one thing, that she has 2 cards that are planes. So she is, I think, the only character that starts out with 2 planes like that. So that allows her to really get to some of the spaces that others can't at a more rapid pace. That is the Baroness board. Next, we will go to the Explorer. All right, here we have the Explorer board, which is the 5th of the 6 characters with the expansion, and definitely one of the more complicated ones in my opinion, as it really changes a few of the rules that the other characters play with. You might be noticing this emblem over here, the fact that there's only one worker, and yes, the Explorer only plays with one worker the whole game. As everyone else has 2 archaeologists and the captain has a 3rd one, the Explorer has to deal with only one. She's a solo adventurer. In place of that, you get snack tokens. Don't know why they're called snack tokens, but that's what they're called. The snack tokens allow you to place one down where you have an archaeologist and then move the archaeologist to a new site. Everyone else, unless they have a special card like an item or an artifact they've bought, once their worker's at a site, they stay at the site. She is going to start hopping around some. You'll see that she has 2 at the beginning of the game. This one does not cost anything to play. This one costs a gold coin to play. And then in the 3rd round, she will get this. So the 3rd snack token costs a compass to play. Let's move to her cards. Funding gets a gold coin. Again, I think everyone basically has one of those cards. We have Scouting. Either gives her a compass. Well, it gives her a compass, and if you discover a new site this turn, you can draw 2 sites and choose one. So remember, the Falconer allows you to do a similar thing as with the Guardian. This allows you to draw 2 sites, pick which one you'd rather have. Really powerful because the sites give you resources. You might be gunning for a certain type of resource to maybe move up the temple track, and you can pick which one is going to be most beneficial. Cartography lets you get a gold coin, or you can slot a snack token here, so like this, and she's going to get a document, and she's going to get to trigger a face-up rune that is a relic that is out on the board. So you can choose any of the ones that are undiscovered, trigger the action, get the resource with that. And then Hike either gives you a compass, or if you again slot a snack token into that, she can trigger any tent site. The tent sites are the bottom 5 sites that you start the game with. So that allows her to trigger an extra action, possibly without having to use a worker. Again, I do think this is one of the more complicated ones, because you do have to think about how you're going to move your worker around by using these snack tokens. The snack tokens cost things besides that one. You also still have to pay the transportation resource, so either the jeep or the boat or the plane to move to the sites. So you really have to kind of understand where you're headed and what resources you have to effectively move her around. But once you have it, she does seem really neat in how she moves. It really gives you a different way to play. Instead of just having the 2 workers that you throw out there, you can line up some pretty cool strategies. All right, so that is it for the Explorer. We have one more to go. It is the Witch Doctor. All right, so the last character we have here is the Mystic. I believe I called it the Witch Doctor in the previous segment. It is the Mystic, is the official title, but you can call him whatever you want. He's pretty creepy looking. And you'll see his board is quite a bit wider than the others because of this extra discard area over here, which is going to fuel most of his powers. You'll also see that he has an additional slot up here for the runes or relics, and some fear card emblems underneath. So he is really going to be driven by these fear cards that you can exile. So you'll see that at the beginning of every round, you're going to draw the normal 5 cards and add a fear token. or a fear card into your hand. So you're going to be racking up the fear cards quite a bit. But if we look at his cards, you'll see a lot of exiling actions that can happen. So we have meditation. He can get a gold coin or he can exile a card. We're going to skip this bottom row here for just a second. So when he exiles a card, which is probably going to be a fear card, he places the fear cards here. Worldly goods either gets him $1 or allows him to draw an extra card. Divine guidance, compass, or he can again exile a card. And then blind sight is this last card where he can get a compass, and if he discovers a new sight this turn, instead of drawing you still draw the relic or rune, but instead of getting its special effect that's printed on it, you can exile a fear card. So you'll see right off the bat that he has a lot of ways to exile fear cards because he's going to be getting so many. So what's the point of exiling the fear cards? So what happens is your fear cards are going to start stacking up over here. You'll see that you can exile this card to do one of these little emblems, which I believe they call it maybe a sacrifice. Can't remember the exact terminology. I'll put that in the note right there for you. But nonetheless, you can exile this card and do one of these actions. So you'll see that this emblem is right here and gives you 3 different actions. So if you take 2 fear cards off of this pile, you can get a gold or a compass. A gold and a compass. If you get rid of 3 fear cards from here, you get to buy an artifact at -3 compasses. The most an artifact can be is 4 compasses, so that can really get you a nice artifact. If you take rid of 4 fear cards, that allows you to overcome a guardian for free. So the idea is you're going to be getting fear cards a lot more than other players, but you're going to be trying to exile them here and then discarding them off of this pile in order to trigger these different things. You'll also notice over here, if you slot a relic into this first slot or this slot here, you get a fear card as well, but you have some extra powers down here. If you slot them, you can either discard or exile a fear card and get an arrowhead, or exile a card and do one of these sacrifices, incantations, whatever they're called. So the Mystic is considered by most people on Board Game Geek and other websites as being the most complicated. My wife actually loves playing as this one. I think he's really cool. It really makes you think differently about the game and how you're going to turn these cards that are typically negatives into powerful combinations to do these special powers. So you can almost concentrate not so much on getting resources, but kind of fueling these with these fear cards that you're getting rid of. So that's it for the 6 characters. Welcome to the How to Play portion of the Lost Ruins of Arnak video. As you'll see, I've set this up for a 2-player game. If you did not see the setup portion of the video, you can go back to that chapter and check out how I set it up. A couple of the rules I went over, but I'll go in more depth here. You'll see that we're playing with the Captain and the Falconer, as they are the 2 more simpler characters to use. Thought that would be a good way to introduce the game to everybody. And what I'll do is I'll probably play about 2 rounds. I won't always make the smartest move. I'll probably actually take some actions just to show you some of the different things you can do in the game. Hopefully that'll give you a good sense of how this plays and if it might be something you want to pick up. So real quick before we play, there are just a few rules that I've not gone over. I want to go over real quick to make sense for everybody. So on a turn, there are two types of actions you can do. You can do the instant action, which is signified by this lightning bolt. You can do as many of those as you want. And then you can take a main action. You can only take one main action the whole round. I'm not going to describe the main actions right now. I'll describe them as I play. You'll probably see just about every one of them. The other thing is, you saw, if you watched the character portion of the video, that you start out with 4 cards, the same 4 every time. You're also going to grab 2 fear cards, and then you're going to shuffle these into your deck. I've already shuffled them in to the captain, but I wanted you to see how that works. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to draw 5. So this will be our starting hand. Also, because Falconer is going first, she gets 2 gold coins. The captain going second gets a gold and a compass. Alright, so we're ready to begin. Oh, this is the starting player token. This will switch back and forth between each round. Alright, so as the Falconer, here are my cards here. So you can't probably see them too well, but as I play them, I'll explain what they do. You'll see I drew the 2 fear cards, which they are negative points at the end of the game. So eventually I want to get rid of them, but I'll show you how you can use them. So it is the first round, and at the beginning of every round, the Falconer gets to move her falcon. So I detailed that in the character portion of her board. That allows me to trigger and do some extra actions. So I got that in mind. But looking at this, so the Falconer really likes to get new sights out, guardians, and overcome those guardians. She's going to get a little bit extra boost when that happens. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is try to get me some compasses so I can get the sight out. So I mentioned these fear cards. They don't do anything as far as playing them, but you'll see in the top left there is a transportation, what I call it, resource. There's boots, there's boats, there's jeeps, and there's planes. The 5 tent areas, you can move there with a single boot. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to play my boot card there, and I'm going to take a worker. She's the red workers, and I'm going to go to this boot. That tells me I get to pick up 2 compasses. So she has 2 compasses now. You also notice that there's no other way anyone can use that compass area because I'm on the only action space there. Like I mentioned in the setup, the waves are on there for all 2-player games. If you play with more than 2 people, then those get rearranged and you could have more space. So I can look at my cards. I could still do an instant action if I wanted, but I will save that and I will go ahead and end my turn. Alright, so let's pick up the captain's cards, which are already shuffled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so got some of his cards. So the cards he's got out allow him to really get some good resources if he gets workers out on the table. We also really want to get rid of this fear card. It gives us a normal fear and a compass. We don't want to hold on to that to the end of the game. So I'll look around. I also want to keep my eye on the temple track over there. It's definitely worth going up. We can definitely get some good points there. Which I think is what he is going to concentrate on because he can't get more of these compasses. So what he is going to do is play his boot here, and he is going to move his worker out onto there, getting him 2 tablets. So that was the main action. So we both did something called digging at a site, which is a site that's already open. These are the 5 ones that are currently open right now, and that is one of the main actions. That's all that the captain would like to do right now. So it's going to switch back over to the Falconer. So you'll see I will not draw cards. You do not draw any cards throughout the round unless you have something special that tells you to. We're going to play with these same cards that we have right here. So you'll see tracking this card, and I discussed this a little bit when I was talking about her board. It gives you a compass, and if you discover a new site, you get to draw 2 guardians and choose one. So I really like that, so we're going to do that. So she's going to play this. We're going to go and grab that compass. Remember, that's a lightning bolt, so we can do that and we can do other things. And then we're going to spin these 3 compasses to go discover a site. So discovering a site is different than digging at a site. Discovering a site means you're coming up here if you have 3 compasses, or coming up there if you have 6 compasses. So I have 3 compasses, so I'm going to put them here, 1, 2, 3. But I do have to pay this transportation cost. So I'm going to look at my hand, and what I'm going to do is, this card's decent, but I don't have any guardians right now, so I'm going to use it. Instead of playing it as this, I can use it for this resource right here, for the boat. So I get to choose one of these boat areas. Whichever one I pick, I'm going to get this relic. When I pick it up, it triggers this action. So I'm going to take my worker, I'm going to put him there. I'm going to take this. This emblem here, which is a little card with an X on it, means I get to exile a card. Now the cool thing about this game is you can exile cards you've already used. So the sphere that I got to use as a boot earlier, I now can exile it, which means I will not have to have it in my hand at the end of the game for scoring purposes. And I got to use it as a boot. So we'll toss that over there. All right, so when I discover a site, it's a level 1 site. That's what this emblem here means. We go to our level 1 stack, draw the top one, put it down. I'm going to instantly gain these resources. So that's a document, another document, and this is the upgrade. So the upgrade is going to allow me to change either a document into an arrowhead or an arrowhead into a ruby. So looking around, what I'll do is I'll probably change a document into an arrowhead just so I have some different resources there. All right, now this is typically where a guardian is going to come out and go onto the level 1 site. But remember what our card says. If you discover a new site, you can draw 2 guardians and choose one. So I'm going to flip over 1 guardian, flip over 2 guardians. So the price to defeat these is here. So this guy would need a gold, which I have plenty of, and a ruby, which I don't have a ruby, and I don't have a worker to go get another ruby. So that could be a problem. This guy needs an arrowhead, and he needs a boat. Well, I have the arrowhead, but I don't have the boat. So really, neither one of these are all that fantastic, but we'll see what happens, because I do have the falcon. So let's do this. Let's go and put the guy with the boat out. So he goes there, covering up that, and this other guardian goes back in the bottom of the pile. All right, so that was my main action. I don't have any lightning bolts I want to use at the moment, so pass it over to the captain. So let's take a look at his, and I think what he wants to do is move up the temple track. So I'll show you that. So one of your main actions can be researching on the temple. So you can look down here. He's yellow. The magnifying glass has to move first. He's got a notebook underneath it. Same with my character. You can move up any of these, and then you kind of follow the path. So he's got 2 documents and a compass, which is what you have to pay for right here. So we're going to say, turn in the 2 documents, tablets, whatever, turn in the compass, and he's going to move up to that. That reward is right here. You'll see that's kind of like the outline of the magnifying. The reward for moving your notebook is right here, the little square. So he'll get 1 point at the end of the game, and he gets a additional gold coin. So that goes there. Now when his Magnify moves the next time, he's got to go to this spot because he doesn't have any choices. So that leaves him a little bit stuck, but that's okay. All right, so that was a main action, so he can't do anything else. There are no lightning bolts I want to use. So back over to the Falconer. All right, so all my workers are out, so I can't do anything there. Now, what I will show you, I will do is I am going to play this falconry card, which either gives me a compass or lets me move up my falcon. So I'm going to move my falcon up to this. All right, and I'm going to trigger my falcon. Triggering it means I'm going to use this action right here, and if it has a lightning bolt, it means I get to use it right now and continue to go. So I'll move my falcon back, and I get one document, and I get a plane. All right, so I still have a main action to do. I'm going to use my main action to overcome a guardian, which means I'm going to pay these resources, and I'm going to basically defeat the guardian. You're not killing the guardian, because the guardian is actually going to help you. So the terminology for the instructions is overcome the guardian. So I will pay the arrowhead. I will use the plane that I just got and use it for the boat, because there is a travel hierarchy. Planes can be used as boats and jeeps. Boats and jeeps can be used as boots. Can't go up the other way, and boots and ships can't commingle over across something. You get the point. So I've paid for that, so I'm going to take this guardian. Now, you'll see in the top right, maybe, that the guardian has an emblem right there. So what that means is this guardian is going to be a free jeep for me at some point. At some point, I will flip him over, which signifies I want to use that jeep. Now, he's going to be 5 points at the end of the game, no matter what, whether I use him or if I don't use him. But I want to keep that in mind, because that might save me from having to waste a card or not realize I have somewhere to go, something like that. So, overcome the guardian. That is a move, and so we are done with that. Back over to this guy. All right, so I think what I want to do is get me a ruby, and so he'll use his boot again, put it there, and he's going to put his worker on this tent site. And what this tent site says is discard a card for a ruby. All right, so I don't really need to travel anywhere, so I'm going to discard that at the moment, and I'm going to take a ruby. All right, so he dug at a site, which is a main action, so he is done. So just to reiterate real quick, the main actions are dig at a site, explore a new site, overcome a guardian, move up the research track, or you can buy one of the cards from the market, either artifact or item. We've not done that yet. I'll try to work that in a minute. All right, so back to her. All right, so I get stuck with this fear card. Honestly, there's not much I can do with this, but yeah, it's not all that great. I probably could have played it differently, but oh well, let's just keep it there. But I do have $2, so let's look at some of these items that I might be able to play. Okay, so I'll take the whip. So I can take these gold coins, I can turn them in. This costs 2 gold. It says exile this card to buy an artifact with a discount of 4, which is the most artifact can be. So at some point, when this comes up in my hand, I will be able to exile this, which means I don't get any points at the end of the game. It goes out of my hand, but I can buy one of the artifacts, the blue cards up there, basically for free. So the way an item works is it goes at the bottom of your current deck, like that. I think that's to signify that you have to wait for the item to come from the mainland. So you can't use it right away. You have to wait. Use it on probably your next turn, unless you just have a whole stack of cards. But I haven't seen that too much in the game. And then now that we have an empty slot, I'll come over here and refill the items. So buying an item is a main action. There's nothing else I can really do. I'm going to pass it back over to the captain. So let's look. He still has one more worker. He has 2 gold and he has a ruby. He also has some stuff here he can do. So let's see. I think what we're going to do, So let's do this. Because I want to show you how this card works. So he's just going to use this Jeep instead of getting the gold. He's going to use a Jeep. He's going to take this. He's going to go out there. He's going to get an arrowhead. Well, he's got some more resources. But there, that was his main action. Nothing else he can do. He passes it over to the Falconer. Honestly, I don't really see anything I want to do as the Falconer. So the Falconer is now going to pass, which means she plays no more this round. The captain can continue on until he also passes, and then the round is over. So let's go back over to here. Let's see. So what I'll do is let's work up this track a little bit and kind of see how things play out here. So let's see. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and move my magnifying glass. So it takes a ruby and it takes a gold. The magnifying glass is going to move there. Now you see this emblem. So that is to use one of the powers on these cards right here. And then you can move it to the bottom. So you're kind of borrowing a power from one of these people. All right, so I think what I want to do is I want to borrow her skill, which is to get a compass. So I move her to the bottom there. And I will grab a compass, put it over here. So that was a main action. Still his turn though, because the Falconer's passed. So let's take a look at this. This card he can play for all the workers he has out. He has 3 workers out, so I could get a tablet. I think I want to get a compass so I can discover a new site next round. So I'll play this there, get another compass. All right, and then now I have some other things happening because I have a compass and an arrowhead. So I'm going to play a compass. I'm going to play an arrowhead. I'm going to move his notebook here. So remember, the notebook needs to be behind or equal to the magnifying glass. The reward for moving the notebook up here is this, which means I get to take one of these. So what we will do is we'll take this guy, put him there. We'll go ahead and tap him just to get a free tablet out of the mix. And then he's played all his cards. She's already passed, so I think we're done with that. So it is now time to do some upkeep for the end of the round. Quickly, I'll discuss that. So what we do over here is we're going to burn the 2 market cards on either side of the staff. There's only one here, so it's fine. We'll burn it. We'll burn these 2. Call it exiling, banishing, whatever you want to say. Move the staff over. Then we're going to refill this with its artifacts. We're going to slide all of these items down and refill it. All right, we're going to take our workers. We're going to put them back in their little tents. We're going to put his workers back. We're going to put his assistant back because he can now use that again next round. Remember, the Falconer gets to move her Falcon up 1 at the beginning of every round, so we've done that. And then we basically just have to take care of our cards. So we're going to take all the cards the Falconer used. She used 4 because remember the 5th card was a fear that she exiled. So we're going to take these 4. We're going to shuffle them up. We're going to put them under this. Now we're going to draw 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's her starting hand. And do the same over here. We'll shuffle up everything the captain used. We're going to put it underneath what was left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's his starting hand. And last, we're going to take the starter token. We're going to pass it to the next person. So now the captain starts. So let's take a look at his hand. So he didn't buy any cards the last round, so he's basically still got the same types of cards. And what I think I want to do is I want to go ahead and get out there and get a site. I do need another document. So let's do this. We'll play a fear card. We'll go there. I'm sorry, I said document. He needs compasses. Put those 2 compasses there. That was the main action. On to the Falconer. So take a look at her. I do have my new card here that I bought, the whip. Actually, we're going to use that. It's probably maybe not the smartest thing to do right now, but I want to show you how an artifact works. So it says exile this card to buy an artifact with a discount of 4 compasses. All right, so I'm going to exile the whip, which means it's going to go up here. Boom. And then I'm going to buy this artifact because it is 4 compasses and I'm getting it for free. Now the way an artifact works is as soon as you buy it, it is going to trigger and go ahead and use its effect. Then it goes into your played pile. And then every other time you want to play it, you have to spend a tablet to use it. So this says draw up to 2 cards from the bottom of your deck. Keep 1, discard the other. So we'll do that. We'll put that there. Look, I only got 1, and you never reshuffle. So because it tells me to grab 2, but I can only grab 1. And honestly, it says keep 1, discard the other. I'm not exactly sure how that works if you only draw 1. But since we're just playing a quick game, I'm just going to keep this. That situation happens in a regular game for you. You go online and see what the designers have to say, because I don't know. And we're going to move this artifact over, refill it up, because I did take that. So playing a card, that was a main action. So we've squared that away. That's in my played pile over here. And we'll move back over to the captain. All right, so the captain, he wants to get out there and find a site. So he's going to let's see. Yeah. All right, he'll just go for a 3 site. That's fine. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Put those down. He wants to use a car. So use that. He's going to go up here, take this. This he's going to go and use to exile a fear, see a fear, and then he is going to draw a level 1. Boom. It gives him either 2 compasses or lets him buy a item for free. Let's just grab the 2 compasses. It's a lot quicker that way. And the Guardian comes out. So the Guardian, to destroy it or overcome it, he needs 2 boots and a compass. So that was the end of his turn, and he can move onward. All right, so let's go back to the Falconer. See what I got going on here. Let's see if I can't move my way up this track over here. So I'm going to use this for a compass. Grab the compass. I'm going to turn in a compass and 2 tablets. And move my magnifying glass there, get a gold coin. That's good for right now. Back over to the captain. So, I'm going to let the captain stay there where the guardian is, so that at the end of this round, when we're cleaning up, you can see what happens with that. So, let's play this sphere. He's going to go on out there, and he's going to get himself an arrowhead. Boom. Alright. Back over to the Falconer. So, I still have both my workers. So, let's do this. Let's place a sphere for the boot. Put it here. And I'm going to discard this. Now I'm going to discard the gold. And I'm going to take a ruby. Alright, that works for that. Let's go back to the captain. Actually, you know what? I'll show you something else. So, he wants to say defeat that with 2 boots. He has a plane and he has a boat. He could do that right now. He could do a couple things. He could also pay $1 for 2 planes, which would take care of that. But I do want to show you how this works here. So let's just pretend that he wants to do this. So he needs a plane, or he wants a plane and a compass. He's going to take his relic. He's going to slot it here, which means it'll still be 3 points at the end of the game, but he's going to lose 3 points. Or not really lose them, but he could have gotten those, but no longer will. He now can trigger that. So he gets a compass. He has a plane. And he's going to spin the plane that he got here. So all he needs to do now is turn in something else. Oh, wrong cards. Something else that covers a boot, which both of these do. So let's just try this one. And he's overcome the guardian. So that will go there. Again, I talked about these special things. We're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to flip this to let him exile a card. And he's going to exile a fear card. There. Alright, so that was his turn. So he is done. Now we're going back to the Falconer. I'll use this because she does have one of these. It allows her to exile a fear. So I'll get that out of there. If we're playing a real game, I would want to do that. And I will use this ruby to move this document up there and get one of these. So we'll do this guy. Alright, moving back to the captain. He's pretty much left with this. He does have a lot of resources though, so let's see what we got here. So we'll use this plane for this jeep. Turn that in. He spends 1 arrowhead. And he can move this here. So that gets him a compass, and it gets him to choose one of these bonus tiles, either a exile or another compass. He's going to grab the compass. We'll go there. Back over here, I have this, so I'm going to tap this. It allows me to, well, no I'm not, because I don't have any cards left. So let's just do this. So I'm going to turn this in, get a thing. I'm going to reset my Falcon to get a gold, and then I'll spend 2 gold and just buy another item, which would go there. I'll come around here so I don't lean in front of the camera anymore, and replace that. Clean this up a little bit. Alright, back to him. So he is out of cards, but he still has lots and lots of resources, so maybe I can do something with that. but maybe I cannot, because he doesn't have any rubies. He doesn't have any arrowheads, so for the time being, and because I'm going to wrap this video up, we'll say he passes, and this way will pass as well. So at that point, again, we would clean up, move the staff over, burn the cards. I mentioned, pretend that he did not defeat that, then he would have to get an extra fear card, which would go here and get shuffled back into his deck. So you continue like that for 5 rounds. The game is then over. Each round does actually come a little bit longer because you start getting more resources, you start getting more actions that you can chain together. So these first 2 rounds might have gone quicker, but they do start getting longer. And then this is how you score. The score pad. So the different ways to score are for your points on the track over here for both their magnifying and the notebook, any temple tiles that you might buy at the very top, all of your relics and any of your open spots that you had, 5 points for every guardian defeated, the points on the corner of your artifacts or items, and then you minus any fear cards you were stuck with, and that will give you the total. So I hope this helped you understand how it plays. Hope that you got some more feel for the game. And if you want a thorough review on it, because I just kind of threw out some of the things I liked, you can go check the website at boardgamebreakdown.com. I have a full review there, both the solo variant and this variant, or the base game, and the pros and cons of it. But I just want to thank everyone for watching the video. Stay tuned for more. Subscribe, go to the website. Thanks, guys.